Okay, so having said that, I'm going to tell just a little bit about what we do in Impact, how we got to the place that we're at right now, and then we'll open up for questions and answers and that sort of thing. Several years ago, actually, I think at the same time that Elevate moved to the current structure of paralleling the weekend services, Impact did the same thing. Unfortunately for Impact back then, it didn't work as well. Breaking up the critical mass of high school students ended up having a negative effect, and the Saturday night and early Sunday morning ended up being like 30, 40 students that were meeting, off in kind of a side room type deal, and with some deliberation and process, there was a decision made like, let's gather all the high school students back together, one time, one place. Having them spread out where they don't know the other students that go to their school. We're losing some power. We're losing some effectiveness there. And that was about 4 years ago that decision was made. Back then, Impact was only averaging about 400 students, which isn't great in a church this size. And 4 years later, after having moved to Sunday, 11:15, house groups we do from 1 to 3 on Sunday afternoon. There was some research that took place to land on that. Impact has grown, and God's just been blessing it tremendously. The ministry is averaging over 800 students every week, which is just so cool to see a room with 800 high school students in one place. I personally don't know of any other church in the country that has the blessing of being able to see that, of 800 students from one geographic area together worshiping God. It's a very powerful experience. Over 500 students every week are in house groups and small groups. So over the last several years, God's just been doing some incredible things, and we continue to see the 8th graders who are connected in Elevate increasingly in better percentages getting connected in Impact, and that's something that we like to see, but we don't like to see one not make the transition. And the transition's not easy for several reasons, and just name reality. Again, we're moving from several different services to one service. You're moving from an hour to an hour and a half time commitment a week to gathering with the body to several hours on a Sunday. Some of them are going to be moving from a small group that they've had since Promised Land, and those people aren't going to go to the same high school, and so they're going to be kind of breaking up in different directions. That makes it difficult. The time of this transition, we've debated and wrestled with this stuff, but we're going into the summer the same way Elevate doesn't have small groups in the summer. Impact doesn't have small groups in the summer. We meet at Sunday, 11:15, all summer long. We do social things afterwards, but the structure's not fully in place that would be as ideal as when you're making a transition. Students, especially if your student is introverted, this is something that we've discovered. Going to house groups can be a little scary, at first, and it takes a little bit of risk. In the same way that connecting into any new family or new community, when you first go, you don't know people, it feels like they're really close and you're not. You can perceive that as cliquish, and you guys got to be the ones to coach your student. No. When you go to a new church, because when they go off to college, they're going to have to connect into a community, and you got to think this way developmentally. You want them to have the kind of mindset that's like, when you go in and you see people that are connected well, that's a good sign. But those people probably didn't experience that the first week that they showed up. That's the kind of coaching that I really think and would encourage you guys to give to your students. We do hear stories, of showing up. The house group's been together for several years. They've been to so many camps together. They're so close. I really don't think it's cliquish, but that's one of the things that you can feel like if you show up and everyone feels like they know each other really well and you don't. There's a lot of reasons to say it's difficult. I could stand up here and only share all the good stuff with you because a lot of students, it comes easy. They go and they connect and they love it and it's great. And then there's others that go and the first week and the second week, they're not like feeling it. And they start saying, Mom, Dad, it's not working for me. It's this, it's that. And they pull back and they end up not connecting and therefore end up not traveling through high school with Plan B, the church, trying to partner with you in place in their lives. And so you just have to imagine that juncture point kind of being played out over several years' time. We see this a lot, obviously. So, having said that, we do, I mentioned house groups are after the 11:15 worship gathering. 11:15, we gather together, we worship, they sit in their house group areas, so by high school. And then from 1 to 3, what takes place is they go travel to house groups, they're catching rides with each other, parents give them rides. It's never really an issue for people to get rides. We have so many small group leaders that are heading that way. The first 30 minutes, we provide lunch for them, so they're eating. It's very informal. They've been to a service. They're just kind of hanging out. They're getting to know each other. Then we do a half hour of like the whole medium-sized group together. So like the Schomburg Hoffman house group, for example, they would all be together down in the basement of Mrs. Poland's home, which is right over by Schomburg High School. And they're doing community building things. So they're getting to know guys and girls that are sophomores and juniors and seniors, and they go to their own school. And then the last hour is small group. And I think that it's important. Part of this attempt to be developmental over a 4-year period of time is what takes place in small group. We take this stuff very, very seriously. The freshman year, the foundation in small group that we're trying to lay for your student is a strong, strong emphasis on spiritual practices. And I ran out of room, like I was a kindergarten writing my name. But nevertheless, the whole freshman year, we're emphasizing the importance of beginning to develop an ongoing relationship with God, learning how to take some time and pray with God and what that looks like, what it looks like to confess and then to honor God and worship God and present requests to God and give thanks to God. We're trying to teach them how to pray day in and day out, and also how to reflect on the meaning of Scripture for their lives. Those two things are like the strong emphasis. We feel like having this ongoing relationship with God is the foundation that everything else is built on. And so that's what the freshman year looks like. The sophomore year, the emphasis is on knowledge. We say we want to, I can't spell, I promise. We say that we want these students to be armed and equipped with enough knowledge to be a little dangerous in the kingdom. So we're helping them to be biblically literate, understand how the Bible's organized, how to actually use it. They're going to walk out of their sophomore year knowing like the meta-narrative of Scripture, like kind of how all the different pieces of Scripture fit together. We want them to know and believe deeply key doctrines, key beliefs that we know from research and just from the Bible itself are really important for them sustaining their growth. This is a very important piece also because this is where a sense of trust in the authority of Scripture gets laid down, which is so important for their ongoing faith journey, and that thing gets challenged a lot. So if we don't lay that foundation and not just say it's authoritative, but actually help them understand how the Bible came to us so that they have it. That's what the sophomore year is about. The junior year is about kingdom responsibility. This is the kind of time where they're really moving from like being receivers of their faith and they're growing. It's like life of discipleship to now they're getting in the game. They're learning about their spiritual gifts. They're learning that God calls us to take kingdom responsibility upon ourselves. So they're learning about who they are, how God's wired me up, theology of stewardship, like God's given me time and talents and abilities to invest, to make the biggest dent in this world for the kingdom that I can. So they're really moving into becoming owners at this point. And the theme of our senior year is freedom. To try to help you kind of understand the shift of learning how I'm gifted, what I'm passionate about, how I can serve in the kingdom, to living in freedom is, for instance, probably an easy example is perhaps your student ends up discovering that they've got a little shepherding gift or a little teaching gift. Well, their small group leader, their junior year might be, I know this is a little bit of ways, but I want you guys to kind of see the end vision. The small group leader the junior year might say, you know what, next week you're going to lead through this portion of the content. So like here's the scripture passage and here's the big questions that you're going to ask and try to lead a discussion through, and they'll give them coaching to do that. And they're like, all right, great, I've got this. So they're preparing, they're owning some kingdom responsibility as a junior. As a senior, it's going to look a lot more like, hey, next week, you're leading through our content. So what do you want to talk about? Well, what scripture do you think that we should use? What kind of questions should we ask? We're setting the bar so high. We want your student, as a freshman in college, to know how to like grab a couple girls or guys from their dorm and assemble an intentional community that knows how to have Bible study together, that knows how to partner with each other in their faith. We don't feel extremely comfortable trusting that wherever they go, someone's going to be holding a ready-made community that will spoon feed them well. We want to know that they're able to stand on their own 2 feet and engage their faith no matter where they go. That's how high we're setting the bar. And yeah, so having said that, that's kind of what's taking place in the small group time, in addition to them like checking in around what's going on in their week, sharing their highs and lows and that sort of thing. So